Alright, settle down now.
Full siya.
Start na. Okay, good afternoon everyone. So we're now on our first lecture on analytical epidemiology. So we'll talk about experimental studies as well as systematic reviews and meta-analysis for this session. Okay, so again, medyo nauna tong mga advanced topics na ito for you to prepare you for your journal critique so that you can at least understand already while you're reading different journals na pwede nyo gamitin for your journal critique or your reporting on the pre-finals for research 2. Alright, so this lecture was supposed to be given by Dr. Joris Velicanio, pero kasi siya available sa time slot, so I took over the lecture for na lang. Okay, so the slides are, first part for the experimental studies are created by me, arranged by me. The next few slides kay Dr. Joris na yung sa systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Alright, so here are the learning objectives for today. So yeah, so we'll talk about experimental study designs and how to interpret the results, the measures of association, and we'll talk about the meta-analysis, systematic review and meta-analysis before we end. Okay, so in epidemiological research, we have two major types of epidemiologic studies. So you have your, ano nga yun? Yung dalawa? Descriptive and analytic, di ba? Sa epidemiologic research. So you have descriptive and analytic types of studies. So under descriptives, as a descriptive epidemiology, you have the following. And under analytic, you have your observational studies, which are what? Yung mga letter C, case control, cohort, cross-sectional analytic design. So nandiyan sa observational. And under analytic, you also have experimental. Ito yung pag-uusapan natin today. Okay, so how are these two different kaya? Yung observational versus experimental. Ano yung difference nila? Ano yung meron kay experimental na wala kay observational? Manipulation, I can hear manipulation. Manipulation of what? Okay, what specific variable? The exposure. You're manipulating the exposure variable. So basically, what we are giving these people are actually disease or treatment. Treatment, of course. So we're exposing people to treatments. Okay, hindi disease. Kasi that would be unethical. And that's actually one of the limitations of experimental studies. Kasi nga, we can't give negative exposures. Okay. Now again, in experimental studies, the researcher manipulates or assigns the level of independent variable, then we measure the outcome. And this is very important. The independent variable should, kung pwede, always be beneficial siya, or intervention or treatment siya. Hindi pwedeng disease, of course. Okay. Now, it provides the best evidence. So if you rate all of those study designs kanina, if you rate all of them, experimental study actually gives us the best evidence or the strongest evidence to a cause and effect relationship or the strongest association between a factor and an outcome. Okay, so it basically resembles cohort studies. Bakit? Bakit siya same sa cohort? Kasi before and after siya, di ba? Just like cohort, before and after. The difference lang, si cohort, you will just be observing. Kaya experimental, you'll be giving the exposures. So yun yung difference nila. Okay. So again, there is action, manipulation of the intervention dito. So as you can see here, they are both the same if you look at it. However, you give the exposure and assign it randomly to the people. Kaya may R yan dyan. Okay? So that's their difference. So, just like any other analytic study designs, you would need two groups here. What are the two groups? A control and experimental group. So ito yung meron sa, well, basically all of the analytic studies, you will always have a control and experimental group. Okay? And then you will be comparing them in terms of their outcomes. So, ayan. So, in experimental, however, again, we assign the exposure. Which group should receive the exposure, which group should not receive the exposure. While in observational, just like cohort, we just observe them. Tapos tingnan natin kung sino after nakakuha ng exposure, and among those who were exposed, who developed the outcome. So, ganun yung difference niya with the observational cohort natin. Okay, so because of this is less susceptible to confounding because we control all the variables with experimental. That is why we get the best results for association when it comes to for experimental studies. So if the exposure is allocated randomly or individuals randomized is large, then even unrecognized confounding effects become statistically unlikely. So kung as you've learned from biostatistics, the bigger your sample size, the better your results. So yeah, same is true with this one. However, again, the experimental studies, ang problem natin is yung negative. So, we have a very big issue when it comes to ethics. Okay, sa experimental studies. So, it is not acceptable again to expose subjects deliberately to potentially serious hazards. Before, during the early days, they did experimental studies that are actually very unethical. So an example would be your Willbrook experiments where they use mentally retarded children. So dyan pa lang may ethical ethical violation ka na dyan. And then they intentionally gave them hepatitis. And to test the effectiveness of your hepatitis immunoglobulin. So yeah, and because of this, actually, so these are the following na parang ano nila, no? Na violate nila sa vulnerability of the test subjects. Number 1, interference with informed consent, kasi nga vulnerable sila, and the non-therapeutic nature of the experiment. So it was through these unethical experiments where we actually learned a lot. And because of these unethical experiments, we were able to create our ethical guidelines for health research. Ngayon. So very din siya. Sad man, pero malaki din ang naitulong itong mga unethical researchers na ito. Okay. So again, here we choose our population. We have our inclusion and exclusion criteria. And then from there, we divide them into experimental versus control. I'm sure you did this siguro sa inyong physiology research. No? And then we check for the outcomes among the two different groups. So yan yung experimental study. Okay. So we don't just do experimental studies right away. Okay, we follow actually certain, or it should parang establish dapat siya before mo siya gawin. I mean, you should have good evidence before you start doing experimental research or before you give your intervention. Okay, so it should be considered when research question is already supported by evidence from descriptive or observational studies. So as you can see here, although this one is a parang pyramid of the quality of evidence naman to siya, but this is basically how we do research. No? Initially, we start with in vitro research, then animal research, then so on, paakyat. And in terms of quality of evidence, actually among the different studies, pinakamataas talaga dito yung systematic review and meta-analysis. But in terms of well, if you're just doing individual researches and you don't want to aggregate all the researches, pinakamataas talaga sa experimental study. Okay, through randomized control study design. So yan. Anyway, so again, there should be enough evidence before you do this one. So you can also do this one if there is still continued uncertainty as to the effect of an exposure or treatment. So if exposure can be modified in a trial setting, then pwedeng gawin ng experimental. And if there are no ethical issues when participants are assigned to have the exposure or the treatment. Okay, so just a quick review of different terms. I think you've had this in your biostatistics already or your research one. So reference population is again the group of ultimate interest, also known as total target population, yan siya. Experimental population or your sample population, that's just the same. And random allocation is the process of giving everyone an equal chance to be in the control versus the experimental group. So, yan yung mga terms natin na kailangan i-review. Okay. So, when it comes to forms of epidemiologic experiments, we have several forms. Yeah. So we can classify it according to study population, according to type of intervention, and according to unit of analysis. So when you, according to study population, your epidemiologic experiment can be classified as, it can be a field trial or a clinical trial. So in field trials, participants are those who do not have the disease yet. So for example, ano ba yung mga gusto mong i-study through field trials? Vaccination. Pwede yan gawin, field trial din siya. While clinical trial on the other hand, participants are patients who already have the disease. This is what we usually do, clinical trials. According to the type of intervention, preventive, when we study primary prevention strategies, again, vaccination. Therapeutic, if we're giving treatment already. So we call it therapeutic epidemiologic experiment. According to unit of analysis, we can do individual trials. We can also do community trials. When we are studying outcomes of different communities, that's already community trial. Well, if we're just checking at the outcomes of every individual in a group, then that's individual trial. Okay, so let's have a small exercise. So trial among adults infected with HIV compared to the effectiveness of treatment with 3 drugs versus treatment with 2 drugs in slowing the progression of HIV. In the study, 1156 infected individuals were each randomly assigned to 2 daily regimens with roughly 580 patients in each group. Each patient was treated and followed for a maximum of 40 weeks. Outcome measures included disease progression and death. So the first question is, ano ang kanyang classification according to study population? Clinical or field trial? Clinical. Bakit? May disease na sila. So it's a clinical trial. Next, according to the type of intervention, is it, okay, therapeutic. Very good. According to unit of analysis, individual. So ganun lang siya. That's how you classify your experimental studies. Okay? And also, another thing here is you can also do it according to presence of randomization. So it may be through experiment or quasi-experiment. So through experiment, when there is really random assignment. However, it is quasi if intervention groups are assigned by the investigator but not randomly. However, you still control the exposure, so pwede pa experiment pa rin siya. Pero hindi lang random yung allocation ng iyong population. But it's still an experiment, but it's classified as quasi-experiment. We usually do this one if there are limitations when it comes to logistics, for example. So, kailangan mo siya i-control. So, kailangan mo siya, like, hindi mo siya randomly allocate kasi kulang. Pero, or for example, mahirap hanapin yung population mo. So, yun yung mga problems with, yun yung mga pwede mong gawin, if ever. But again, the results for quasi-experiment is, yung quality of evidence is less compared to true experiments. Okay, now let's talk about randomized controlled trials, or RCTs. RCTs are still a type of experimental study design. So we call it RCT. So we use individual as unit of analysis here. And they are randomized to an intervention group. And we have minimum of 2 groups here, treatment and control group. Of course, I'm in the definition yan, not treatment versus control. And this is actually considered as the gold standard for intervention research. So we do a lot of RCTs. And if you check literatures, madaming RCTs dyan when it comes to treatment or effectivity of different treatments. They always do RCTs. And if done well, it is considered to be the most internally valid research design. So what does it mean when it's internally valid? Most internally valid. Meron ba external validity? Meron ba internal validity? So what's internal validity? Internal, within the study group. So makonclude mo talaga yung results mo are true within the study group. Well, external validity, outside, you can generalize it. So let's talk about those 2 things. So when you say external validity, the truth of the study results outside the study. So that's external validity. So the questions here are the same. Does the same thing happen in other settings, in other labs, or even in everyday settings? So that's external validity of your study. While internal validity, truth of the study results within the study, within the population group, within the study group rather. So the study, and usually we can confirm internal validity if the study was done well, if the methods were correct, if the statistical analysis were done correctly. Okay, so was the research done right? So that answers internal validity. Okay? So this is a representation of RCTs. No? So you have your study population, then you randomly assign the study population. So we give the current treatment to the control group, and we give the new treatment to the experimental group. Then we check their outcomes. So again, usually we use the current treatment as a comparison, or as a, instead of giving placebo, we usually give the current treatment, especially if may disease na. Okay, so ganyan. Alright, so this is again a general outline of how we do study design, no? Or the experimental study design, or the RCT to be specific. So you have your reference population here, and then individuals are screened for eligibility, and then we exclude those who cannot meet our criteria, and then we have, and once everyone is na-qualified, ma-qualify mo na yung mga tao mo, you will have your study population already. And from that, you will get baseline measurements, and then you randomize them according to those that will receive the intervention and those that will receive the control. So again, sa control, pwede yung standard treatment or the placebo. Okay. And then you follow them up, then you measure the outcomes. And then compare the outcomes between two groups. And then, from there, if maganda yung sampling process, you can actually make inferences about the target population from the sample. So that's how we do RCT. Okay, so very important sa RCT is yung randomization. Okay, so why do we need to randomize? So participants should not differ in various ways. No? Yun yung pinaka-important. Actually, pinakamaganda nga na control group is actually the same people na ginamit mo for experimental group. That's the best control group. However, that's not possible, of course, right? So, as much as possible, kung pwede, the characteristics sana of your control should be the same with your experimental. So if participants in different groups vary, this will lead to a biased result. So of course, and will likely result to and if you do randomization, this will likely result to comparable groups if sample size is again large enough. How do we know that it's large enough? We do sampling calculations. So that's how you should be taking your samples. Okay, so yeah. And we also do blinding here. In our RCTs, we usually do blinding. So these are just actually some of the ways pala to minimize threats to internal validity. So as number one is yung randomization. Second would be blinding. So limiting who has knowledge of treatment assignments. So it may be single-blinded or double-blinded. So single-blinded, ano ibig sabihin nun? Participant or the patient is not aware. While double-blind, pati si researcher. So, ganun lang yun siya. Very easy to understand, no? So, sa subject blinding or single blinding, by the way, single blinding can be subject or observer blinding pala. Okay? But usually, with participant lang yan siya palagi. Okay? So, subject blinding, participant is not aware of his or her treatment assignment. So, may help avoid reporting of positive subjective outcomes sa participant mo. Pag alam niya na he or she is actually receiving, let's say, the new treatment. So, kasi magbuot-buot siya. And then, so we usually use very similarly looking treatments para if ever magkasama yung two participants mo, if they will see their treatment, they won't parang, ako itong tinuod kaya ako ang colors of. So as much as possible, same yung color ng iyong pills if you are using pills as your treatment. Now, observer blinding, observer or data collector is not aware of the treatment assignment of the participant. He or she is observing for the outcome. Okay? And it may help ensure objectivity of outcome assessment. Okay. Now, how do we do an RCT? So first, you select your sample from your target population. So we do this by, of course, proper calculations. And then from there, we measure again their baseline variables, and then we randomize them, randomly assign them to different groups, and then we apply the interventions that we need to give them. As much as possible, dapat blinded siya. And follow up and measure the outcome variables. Again, blinded pa rin sana dapat, no? And we analyze the result. Analyze the result afterwards.
Mr. and Mrs.
So again, the target population, yun yung gusto mo, no? Sample naman, that's the subset of your target population that you were able to obtain. And very important, your sample, all of them, of course, should not have the outcomes of interest yet. Observe mo naman after na study mo. So, it may be selected by random sampling or purposive sampling. So, specific inclusion and exclusion criteria, and usually purposive is preferred for RCTs. So, we usually include those at highest risk for the outcome. And we exclude those with other diseases, that may cause complications to the participant, or those with contraindications to the medication that you will be, or the treatment that you will be giving them. Okay. And then after selecting your sample, you have your sample already. What's the next step? You measure the baseline, get the baseline variables. So usually sa baseline, we describe the characteristics of your participants. So it can provide support on the comparability of the two groups after randomization if characteristics are not significantly different. So maganda mo talaga ng baseline. So we usually measure the demographic variables of our participants, all of them, of course. And then we check also their clinical variables. Tapos, from there, we can somehow, if we randomize them, we can somehow siguro say na that the two groups are probably equal already, or randomized already. Kung homogeneous yung distribution of different variables mo dito. Okay? So that's the significance of this part. Next, after baseline variable measurement, you do randomization. Okay, so you can do different ways to randomize your participants into these different groups. You can do coin flipping, rolling dice, table random numbers, or whatever. Mga different ways to do randomization. Assignment of treatment should not be influenced by knowing the characteristics of the study participant. Okay, so minsan we get a remote randomization facility or to do randomization for us, or we can sometimes do it by ourselves. So there are different ways to do randomization. You can do simple random sampling, yung coin, card, using dice. However, if you do simple, make sure that your sample size should be large enough. Kung pwede more than 200. You can also do block randomization. So it can be used for smaller sample sizes. So block size is determined by the researcher and should be multiple of the number of treatment groups. So let's say you have two groups, so you have your control and your treatment. So, multiple dapat siya ng 2. So, if you have, for example, 2 groups, tapos, you can assign your block size to be 4 or probably 6. And then you create different blocks. And then from those different blocks of the people included in your study, you randomly assign them into intervention and control. So, let's say 6 ang person per block. So, 3 of them will go to the intervention, 3 of them will go to the control. So, to enhance randomization. So blocks are again randomly chosen. Then, next, after randomization, you give the intervention already. So naka-randomize ka na, you have 2 groups na, control and treatment. Then you give the intervention. So, ayan. So you need to specify in your paper, for example, the active or the treatment and the control talaga. No? You need to put all details about it. And standardize how the interventions are provided. As much as possible, the same talaga dapat yung way ng pagbigay mo ng treatment. Okay? Blind participants, if possible. Except, of course, if you're doing surgery, then you can't blind them. Wala, mag-char-char kasi nag-surgery, no? Char-char kag-operate, so hindi na siya pwede. So, if pwede lang, let's say, usually, mga pills, ganyan. Pwede natin sila i-blind. So ensure that those in the treatment group actually receive the active intervention. So everything should be properly placed in your protocol. And ensure that those in the control group will of course receive the control intervention. And then, we do outcome measurements. Okay, yun yung favorite ninyo. So, computation. So, you do outcome measurements. So, outcomes may be quanti or quali, depending on your variable. And then, patient important outcomes are usually usually quali, and then we convert it into quanti by yung pagtali. So, disease occurrence, heart attack, stroke, death. So, like a follow-up also depends on the hypothesized induction period of the disease, or whatever that outcome is. Then, use the same data collection method for both groups. Of course. And as much as possible, let us minimize, sana, ma-minimize natin yung attrition. Kaya when we compute for sample sizes, meron tayong laging allowance na nilalagay, kasali sa computation yan. Kasi there is a possibility of attrition. Okay. So how do we measure, how do we analyze now the outcome? So, we have different ways to analyze your outcomes. Okay, so measures of outcome occurrence for qualitative outcomes can be computed separately for each group. So we usually compute for the incidence proportion. However, if may mga loss to follow up tayo, we usually use incidence rate. Okay, instead of using total number of people, we use person time, the person time unit. But dito lang muna tayo mag-focus sa incidence proportion, ha? Kasi that will be explained when we go to measures of disease, yung incidence proportion. So, incidence rate. Incidence proportion muna tayo. So, incidence proportion, usually we use them for if complete yung follow-up ng inyong participants from the start to the end. Incidence proportion yung ginagamit. So, very easy lang. So, the incidence proportion of those with the outcome variable sa iyong group over the total number of your participants times 100. Then you can get your incidence proportion. Now, a measure of association for experimental study, same as your cohort, would be your relative risk, or the RR. Okay, so relative risk, or RR, or also known as your risk ratio, same lang yan sila. This is the risk, the incidence proportion, which is yung formula kanina, yan, the incidence proportion among those exposed over the incidence proportion among those that are unexposed. So that's your relative risk, RR. If incidence rate naman gamit mo, then you will have the IRR, or the incidence rate ratio. Or incidence rate ratio. So IR of the exposed over IR of the unexposed. Again, wag mo na yan, di muna tayo sa kabilang side, sa left side. Okay, now you have your RR. Okay, and then, determine now if the intervention has any beneficial effect or any effect. Was it beneficial? So that's your percent effectiveness. So you can compute that by this formula, using this formula. So the incidence and the control, or the IP control minus IP experimental over IP control. Or simply by just subtracting your RR, or 1 minus your computed RR. So you can get your percent effectiveness for the drug. Okay, let's have an example. Let's say you have these results for a study among maternal infant transmission of HIV with zidovudine treatment. So you have your treatment, zidovudine versus placebo. Then you have the total number of cases among those who received the treatment, yung 13, and then among those receiving the placebo, merong 14 na nag-develop ng HIV. Okay, now, determine the RR and the percent effectiveness. Sige daw, anong RR nito? Compute nyo, calculator mo, cellphone nyo, gawas. So, how do you compute the RR nga? That's IP exposed over IP unexposed. How do you compute the IP exposed? Sino yung exposure group dyan? Yung sa taas, yung zidovudine. So, how do you compute the IP of that group?
180 or 30
Okay. And then?
or 183.
IP ng ilan yung IP ng exposed? 7 point, ilan? 7.2 ba? Okay. Okay, sige. Then, anong IP ng iyong unexposed?
143.
21. So, you have your 0.072 over 21. So, ilan yung RR? Pila daw? 0.33. Very good. So 0.33. Now, what's your percent effectiveness? 0.67. Okay, so how would you interpret 0.33, relative risk? Ano kaya natin siya i-interpret? What's that? 1/3? Ano yan? Infants whose mother received zidovudin had 33% or 1/3. Ano yun? What's risk? 1/3 risk of 1/3 the risk of having HIV compared to those who received the placebo. Okay, so ganun siya pag-interpret ng RR. Now, yung 0.67% effectiveness, how do you interpret that? 67%. Okay. Reduction siguro, or not likely to have HIV infection among infants who received zidovudin compared to those in the control group. So, ganun siya. So, yan. So, infants whose mothers took zidovudin had 0.33 or 1/3 the risk of becoming HIV infected compared to those whose mothers took placebo. So that's how you interpret it. While percent effectiveness, on the other hand, there was a 67% relative reduction in the risk of HIV infection among the zidovudin group compared to the placebo group. That's how you interpret your result for experimental studies. So, yan lang muna. Huwag na tayo OA pa na compilation. So, ganun lang siya. So, RR and percent effectiveness, yung medyo meaningful dito sa mga experimental studies or RCTs. Okay? Okay. So, there are different types of RCTs actually. No? You have your parallel group design. So, each group receives one treatment and treatments are given concurrently. So, ito yung usual ginagawa natin. So, you have your control, then you give both of them the treatment. One group treatment, one group placebo. So, however, the problem with parallel group design, or the usual RCT that we do, if the sample size is small, it may lead to incomparable groups. Okay, confounding cannot be adjusted for. So, yun yung problem if very small yung group natin. Okay, so there are actually certain ways to reduce that problem by restricting inclusion criteria so that everyone is sufficiently similar. Or we can match the participant on certain important characteristics. For example, ayan, so if there is a 37-year-old sa kabila, dapat may 37-year-old din na male sa kabila. So ganun, we can do those things. And then we also have this design na tawag natin for RCT na crossover. Marinig niya siya crossover RCT. So sa crossover, all participants will have the chance to receive control and the treatment. Kaso, very time-consuming siya, no? And very gasto kayo siya. So the order of, for example, each participant here, if you have 8 patients, to receive the treatment versus the intervention will also be randomized. So here, since all of them has the chance to receive whatever treatment that is, this usually has lesser error, since your variation can be eliminated. Okay, however, it is susceptible to carryover effects. Yung carryover effect ng intervention mo, baka pagdating sa nag-control na siya, nandun pa rin, it's still there. So, importante may washout period in between receiving treatment and control. So, yan yung dapat gawin if you do crossover design. Okay, so yan. Ito siya yung representation. So again, sa parallel, the usual. Crossover, treatment A, may wash out, then treatment B, and follow up. Or treatment B, wash out, treatment A, then follow up. So yan yung difference nilang dalawa. Okay, so what are the advantages of your RCT? And why is it considered as the gold standard of therapeutic studies? So, again, an advantage of your RCT is that there is control of measurement variables. So those who are exposed to the intervention should have all received the same intervention. And there is also temporality here. So you can establish that indeed the effect happened the effect happened after you gave the intervention. So yeah, may temporality. Okay. And that is actually one of the criteria for causation, di ba, yung temporality. Dapat may temporality of giving the treatment or the factor to the outcome. And then there is strong evidence for causation because of strong internal validity. Again, it is very internally valid. So, maganda siya yung result na makuha natin from RCTs. Okay, again, what are the disadvantages for this one? Ano kaya yun? So, yung number one, time consuming. So, that's one thing, no? Time consuming. And ethics. Very good. Ethical review. Ethical problems. So, yun. Another pa. Sige daw. Expensive. Money. Time. Money. Tapos, ethical issues. What else? Who's under the treatment group versus the control group. Okay, so pwede siya mangyari din, no? Ma-mix up mo sila. What else? Among your participants, ano ba yung problem usually with mga follow-up type of study?
Compliance.
Yung compliance, loss to follow-up. Yan yung pinakamalaking problem dito. Okay? So, and in RCTs kasi, we usually, there is a problem then sometimes with external validity of your result. Okay? So yeah, so these are the disadvantages. No? Again, ethical issues and external validity may not be supported. So if exclusion criteria are very specific, if you really criteria mo very specific siya, no, na hindi mo na masyado na consider yung ibang population to include in your study, then probably there will be a problem with the application of your result to the general population already kasi masyado nang restricted yung criteria. Okay, and should consider to which target population the same intervention effect is expected to be observed. Again, very important kung sino yung target mo na population, dapat yung study sample should also be them. Should represent them. Kasi nga, if very restrictive na yung criteria, then you will have a problem with external validity. Okay, so again, COSI, napag-usapan na natin to, no? Assignments are not randomized when usually used kapag logistically non-feasible yung randomization for your groups. Okay. And then community trials naman, again in community trials, our problem here would be, a difference ito is that we are looking at outcomes among different communities or groups of people rather than the outcomes of individual patients. So yan yung community trial. So let's say you're implementing certain, let's say, you implement smoking ban in the city. So tinanong mo yung outcomes before and after implementation, then you compare it with another city, okay, before and after the intervention that you've given. Or smoking ban dun, no? Grabe. Pero something that you can control. So pwede siguro deworming program na gibuhat for this certain barangay, compare it with another outcomes with another barangay, may effect pa siya. So that's experimental community trial. Okay, ang problem naman sa community trials is that only a small number of communities can be included. Okay, and the allocation of communities is not usually practical and difficult to ensure that the differences found at the end of the study can be attributed to the intervention rather than to inherent differences between the two communities kasi nga very diverse ang mga communities and difficult to isolate kasi people can transfer, can move at any time. So that's for experimental studies. Now let's go to, kapit na tayo matapos, to systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Okay, so what do you know about systematic reviews and meta-analysis? Highest quality evidence, no? Na makuha natin from different types of study, among the different types of studies. So ito yung pinakamataas na evidence na pwede natin gamitin. Okay. So in our field, generalizable conclusions are usually made from medical literatures. Okay, through very large data sets. So hindi enough na isa lang, di ba? Dapat marami. Different, malaki na population group. And treatment, if applied worldwide, if you give it to everyone, or if you do a study to everyone, statistical testing would be unnecessary, of course, na, di ba? And it will only be used, yung statistical testing mo, kapag you're taking samples from different groups. And that's what we usually do, right? Kasi if you study the whole population of the whole world, medyo ano siya, grabe time consuming and grabe ka manpower requiring and logistically not feasible talaga siya. Okay. Oh, sorry. The problem, however, a study conducted in some small group is much likely to generalize to other groups. Yun yung problem. So that is why, again, we use yung statistical power and we also provide the external validity of it. And one way to generate data from large diverse sample is to do multi-site intervention trials. So different areas na ginagawa na intervention trials. So this is done with enough funding. So yung mga ginagawa ng WHO ng mga trials yan, marami silang pera so they can do multi-site trials. And then it requires thousands of participants. But then again, logistically, this is not feasible. No? And it will actually prevent your researchers to conduct the study. So that's why we have these different studies here to complement that problem or to resolve that issue in doing small studies. So, aggregation of findings from multiple smaller trials is an option, and it is an efficient, cost-effective means of approximating statistical power and generalizability of larger trials. So, that's why we have systematic reviews, meta-analysis, and evidence mapping. So for this discussion, we'll just talk about up until meta-analysis. Wala na yung evidence mapping. Sige. So what is systematic review? What is systematic review? How is it different to meta-analysis kaya? Ha? Quanti. Yun yung main difference nila actually. No? Si systematic review, it can also involve mga quanti studies. However, in systematic review, we just, kumbaga, we're just doing parang, ginagroup lang natin yung mga studies. And then we talk about each individual results. Then we create a generalized conclusion. Okay. So it is an aggregation of multiple studies addressing a similar research question in a similar way. So, pre-specified criteria are imposed for inclusion generally pertaining to methods, measure, and population. So yan yung that's how we do systematic review. Anyway, this one is a general flow when you're doing systematic and meta-analysis. So yan siya yung general flow. So formulating your research question, then protocol and registration of the different studies that you will be looking at, inclusion and exclusion criteria, literature search, and then the selection of study, then quality of evidence assessment, data extraction, analysis of data, level of evidence assessment, and result. So that's the process of doing it. Okay? I'm just showing that, but para at least idea lang kayo na ganun ka-extensive yung ginagawa when you're doing systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Have you read a systematic review paper? No? So, if you compare it to a meta-analysis na paper, si meta-analysis, meron siyang statistical analysis. System analysis, no? So systematic review, more of aggregating different results from different studies. And actually, systematic review is a prelude to meta-analysis. So that's how we do it. Okay? So maybe purely qualitative when differences preclude quantitative data synthesis. So when qualitative studies are aggregated, and then when trials addressing a given research question differ substantially, okay, then we can do a proper systematic review on that. So according to the Cochrane Handbook of for systematic review, itong Cochrane group, ito sila yung sila yung gumawa ng guidelines for these different types of studies, yung systematic review and meta-analysis. So when you do systematic review, dapat clearly stated ang set of objectives with predefined eligibility criteria. Tapos you should also have reproducible methods. Like if somebody else would do the review, dapat magawa din niya, same as what you did. Even if it's just an aggregation of different types of studies. So search attempts to identify studies that would meet their criteria, you should also put it there, and everything. Yan. Okay. So quantitative synthesis allows formal statistical analysis, and thus it will become meta-analysis already. So if you do again statistical analysis of the different results of those different studies, you somehow group them all, and then you analyze the parang grouped result of all of the studies, then it becomes meta-analysis already. Okay. A systematic review may include or exclude it. So, systematic, actually, minsan nagkaka-mix up itong dalawa, sinasabay nila in one publication, minsan naman, separate yung dalawa. Okay, meta-analysis requires, again, very important, before you can do meta-analysis, you will always need to have a systematic review, okay, of the literature to aggregate studies which serve as data sources. Okay, so yun. Again, when you do meta-analysis, you already have a measure of strength of a particular association here. Okay, so meta-analysis basically is an aggregate result of different studies to establish composite impression, which is the qualitative part of your meta-analysis, and measure of the strength of a particular association between a factor and an outcome. Okay, approximation of RCT with aggregated results of those observational studies has been attempted, but others have challenged it. Okay, so yun. There are two different types of meta-analysis. Usapan din natin yan siya. So meron din actually quali meta-analysis. Okay? So in quali meta-analysis, it is a systematic review on a particular topic. So how is it different with systematic review? O meron same lang yung pala yung sinasabi niya, no? Okay. So, if anything differentiates your systematic review from a quali meta-analysis, it is the commitment of your meta-analysis to expressing a summary judgment about the overall weight of evidence. So, sa kasi, quali, MA, you have a summary and then you assess the quality of evidence. Kahit quali lang siya, meron ka pa rin summary of evidence, and you assess the quality of each of the evidence, and then you create a summary. That's for quali meta-analysis. The systematic review, again, you just present everything there, and you just arrange them. That's systematic review. Okay, yun yung mga, pagtingin nyo, akala nyo RRL lang siya, hindi lahat, nakalagay lang doon, naka-ano lang siya, tawag yan? Para lang siyang, actually parang sa books lang natin siya. Naka-top, may heading, tapos may blah blah blah, doon nakalagay yung mga different studies, and yung mga findings ng different studies. That's systematic review. However, quali meta-analysis, meron kang sa ending, meron kang summary of everything. And somehow you can talk about the results, no? Parang final result nilang lahat, and you can somehow make your own conclusion about that a specific issue that you are actually exploring. So that's quali meta-analysis, comparing it with systematic review. Okay. So analysis indicate control studies of the outcome in question and provides impressions, although not a statistical measure of weight of evidence. Again, in quali MA, you have summary judgment here. Okay? But if you talk about meta-analysis lang talaga, no, we always associate it with statistical tools talaga. Okay, but sometimes you can encounter quali meta-analysis. They call it meta-analysis, tapos pagtingin mo, bakit walang statistical tools, walang forest plot, wala yung mga funnel plot na ginagawa. Pero pagtingin mo sa last part, meron palang summary of evidence. So that's why it's called meta-analysis. Okay, so meta-analysis pa rin siya. Kasi again, merong summary judgment sa last part. And of the overall weight of the evidence na nakuha nila from doing the MA. Okay. Now, when you talk about quanti-MA, ito na yung usual meta-analysis na alam natin. So that's quanti-MA. So data are analyzed as reported in the literature. Okay? And it has two forms rather. Your data are analyzed as reported in the literature, or you may also do aggregation of the different data from the different studies na ginawa. You aggregate them all, but of course, very important na dapat yung methods nila, they're almost the same para ma-aggregate mo yung data nila. However, this one, it actually is more time-consuming. Okay, kung hanapin mo pa yung raw data from multiple studies, comparing it with just getting the final scores from the different studies na meron ka. Ito kasi, you need to aggregate everything pa. Okay. So either way, strict criteria are employed for selection of pertinent studies. So, yeah. Sorry. So again, this begins with SR, or systematic review, and then variability in the different, of course there will always be variability among different studies, right? But they have we have a statistical tool to address that using the test of homogeneity. But we won't go there, okay? Basta meron tayong ginagawang test for us to, before we can actually do the quanti analysis, meta-analysis of the different studies na nakuha mo. We test for their homogeneity. Okay, so you have for data analysis. Okay, so it is important for us to know that less variation in trials, if lesser yung variation ng iyong mga methods, yung sa trials mo, the more meaningful will be the aggregations of your findings. Okay, we use forest plots here. Yan. For example, you have different studies here. And then you use the forest plots to compare the results of these different studies. Okay? And this line here represents the line of no association. Ito siya. Okay? And then comparing whatever factor you studied with the result of the RCT, for example. And then, yeah, you line them up, and then from that, you can actually have a parang final score. Okay? And we usually have a score, tawag natin ng Cohen's d. Okay. That's the score. Okay. Okay, so yan yung forest plot. But we won't go there na sa interpretation. This is actually just an introduction to meta-analysis lang. Okay. Huwag na kayong mag-stress. Okay. So information about individual trials, however, is still needed. Okay, Quanti-MA is of use when it provides information on individual trial strengths and weaknesses, comparability of trials are assessed, and distribution of the results are there. Okay. Now, the problem with published researches kasi, usually those that are published are those with good results, di ba? Oo. So yun usually, no, ang problem, no, the publication bias. Those with good results, sila yung pinapublish. Now, how do we assess or evaluate, or how do we account for publication bias in meta-analysis? We can do this one, no, funnel plotting, or regression studies pa rin to siya. Okay, we can do funnel plotting, and a funnel plot attempts to populate a funnel of expected effect sizes and around a mean. So, yan. So, the more gaps are there within the different points in your funnel plot, the more it will tell you na merong publication bias. But the lesser the gaps between these points, the lesser yung amount of publication bias na meron tayo. Okay, so yan yung significance lang ni funnel plot. So in cases na when you read meta-analysis, at least alam niyo yung may idea kayo anong purpose ni funnel plot there. That's how you interpret these funnel plots. Okay, in terms of data processing of meta-analysis, there are also two different models that we use. So you have your fixed effects models and your random effects models. So how are they different? Si fixed effects model, since you have different data from different studies, we usually treat them as parang different trials. Then we get the result of each trial. Then we compare the results. Okay? Then we summarize all the results. While sa random effects naman, the data from selected trials are presumed to represent a sample of a larger population of studies. So para siyang individuals pa rin siya sa random effects. Individualized trials pa rin siya. So, kinukuha, and then we compare the results. See, fixed effects, again, we treat them as para different trials. Then we summarize the results. Then we get a final result. Again, see, random effects, we just compare all the individual results of individual studies. Then we get check for differences between the results. So, that's the difference between fixed effects and random effects model for meta-analysis. Okay. So, yeah, actually, that's the last slide. So, any questions?